Since childhood, I've had many close calls with death. People often say it's because of a high destiny or that I have protective spirits in my family, which is why I've been nursed back to health each time and haven't truly died. My out-of-body experiences are countless, and I myself feel that this is true because there are things that are simply too difficult to explain. Right from birth, I had the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, and I was born prematurely, weighing just over 1 kg. I was tiny, like a purple, lifeless mouse, thought to be dead immediately. Yet the midwife miraculously saved my life. Because I was born prematurely, my health was very poor. I was constantly sick and frail. My family struggled immensely because my hospital stays were so costly. My mother, Ms. Leon, recounted that even at home, I often exhibited strange behaviors or would play alone as if talking to someone. There was even a time in the middle of the night, while sleeping in bed with my parents, I heard someone call my name and went out to play. I followed them almost to the banyan tree at the end of the village, then was hidden among wild weeds or nearby overgrown bushes, causing the whole family to search frantically many times, looking at me with confused, suspicious eyes. My mother, Ms. Leon, went to many fortune tellers. One master said I had a special destiny chosen by higher powers, and that I would eventually have to become a medium or open a temple, otherwise I would be afflicted by spirits. At that time, I didn't quite understand what that meant because I was too young and didn't know anything about it. Initially, my father, Mr. Two, didn't believe in such things, superstitious ghost stories, considering them mere folklore. As a commune official himself, he was even less inclined to believe. He often forbade my mother from visiting absurd fortune tellers, saying too many masters invite too many ghosts. He believed she was wasting money and inviting more worry, arguing, isn't all that fortune-telling just bringing bad luck and trouble to the family? My mother, Ms. Leon, however, was quite the opposite. She was very spiritual. She would retort to my father, "What are you talking about? Our son, Dung, is being tormented, that's why he's like this. Look around the entire village, the entire commune. Is there anyone else acting like him all day? He's only a few years old, yet he makes all these things. Who is teaching him to do this?" My mother pointed to a pile of strange objects I had laid out in the house. There were red, green, purple, yellow, 5-colored thread strings I had pulled from old clothes. If there was no thread, I used yarn, arranging things that any normal person would find bizarre. There were altars made of mirrors, prayer tables, and self-made clay figures for chanting prayers, even reciting prayers by heart, complete with hand gestures and mudras that seemed to come naturally to me. Even I didn't know why I was like this. Many people even advised my mother to open a temple for me, and offered to perform fortune-telling for money. However, my father, Mr. Two, strictly forbade me from doing such things, dismissing them as childish mischief. He'd say, "Don't listen to what people say, it'll just make things worse," always believing in these nonsensical fortune-telling stories. I'm out there promoting culture and fighting superstition, and here you are, my wife and children, constantly engaging in these antics. Do you think that's acceptable? My father would gather all the items I had displayed and give me a good beating. A normal 5 or 6-year-old child would be terrified when their parents hit them. But my mother, Ms. Leon, recounted that far from being scared, I would just point at my father's face, my eyes wide and rolled back, appearing eerily calm, completely unlike my usual self. I'd ask, "Do you know who I am?" My father would retort, "How dare you speak so insolently to your father, the one who gave birth to you? Who taught you to talk to your father like that?" With that, he would grab a rattan cane and whip me again. But I felt no pain, I just laughed hollowly. My mother, seeing this, tried to intervene, but my father pushed her away, shouting, "Move aside. This child is spoiled, and it's your fault for indulging him so much that he's turned out like this. Let me beat him properly and see if he's a ghost or a human." My father had a short temper and was quite stubborn. He would say, "Go ahead, just stand there, let me whip you hard." Yet I never cried. My mother, out of love for me, would wail, "Mr. Two, are you going to kill our child? What terrible thing has he done for you to beat him like this? He's your son, our son." My father would snap back, "Is there any child as disrespectful as this? He's calling his father you and telling him to go away." My mother immediately hugged me and said, "I've told you before, our child is not normal. He has been chosen by higher powers, that's why he is like this. Right now, he is not himself anymore, so don't blame him." My father dismissed it. "Chosen, selected, it's all superstitious nonsense. From tomorrow, if I see him playing these games, I'll stop it immediately." With that, my father threw the rattan cane to the ground and stormed back into the house. After that, my father would beat me fiercely, absolutely forbidding me from displaying any more strange things. But things always returned to normal after a while. Eventually, he gradually accepted everything. I don't know how to explain it properly. Perhaps it was due to my strange abilities. In my village at that time, people started playing the lottery a lot. I don't know who brought this game to the village first, but wherever I went, people were always discussing with each other what number would come up tomorrow. Anything or any object could be linked and assigned a lottery number. I was especially fond of this game. Any money I earned, I gave it all to the lottery bookie. That's why the family's finances declined day by day. Many times, I saw my parents arguing, and my father, Mr. Two, was an extremely conservative and short-tempered man. My mother, Ms. Leon, was also the one who went to record the results for my father every day. Whenever he won, the whole family would celebrate like it was Tet, but if he lost, God help us. I remember distinctly one time my father gave me 20,000 VND and told me to record the number 69. However, in my mind, for some reason, I thought of the number 96. So I told Old Man Kai, "Uncle, my father wants 96. Old Man Kai, perhaps tired of me, didn't ask much. He took a cigarette pack wrapper, wrote it down, and gave it to me, saying, "Take this back to your father. If this isn't it, I won't pay you, okay?" I took it home to my father. He saw the number 96 and frowned. My father said, "I told you to write 69. Why did you write 96? This kid always says one thing and does another." I replied calmly, "Do you want to win the lottery? If you want to win, just leave it as it is. Tonight, the number will be 96, not 69. My father stared at me, dumbfounded. "I only have 20,000 VND left. If 69 comes tonight, you're in trouble with me." "Don't worry, Dad. Tonight, it will definitely be 96. I dreamed last night that you won with 96. You'll get 1 million VND from Old Man Kai's house, I'm serious." When I said that, my father was half believing, half doubting. He stared at me as if I were a strange creature. Indeed, that day the number 96 came up. When he heard the news, my father carried me to Old Man Kai's house to collect the money, laughing as if he had never laughed before. At home, he praised me endlessly. "You're truly my son, Dung. Smart, good at studying, and handsome too. Every now and then, if you dream of a number, tell your father, okay?" My father even promised to buy me lots of candies. His praise made me feel very proud. My mother didn't know about this because she hated gambling and didn't care whether my father won or not. In our family, everyone spent what they earned. We only discussed major issues. At that time, I secretly thought it was funny. Just giving them a number made my father happy all day. I also liked having such dreams. However, before, whenever this happened, I often forgot or didn't pay attention. It was only when I realized that lottery numbers brought money, and money could buy many things, that I started to pay close attention to them. I would tell my father a few times a month, and every time he would actually win. That's why my father regarded me as a gold mine or a treasure. Although before, my father, Mr. Two, was short-tempered, hot-headed, and conservative, now he was different. The first person I saw every morning when I woke up was my father. The first thing he would ask was, "Did you dream of anything? Did you see your father win the lottery?" Whenever I gave him the correct number, there was no need to discuss. I would get whatever I wanted. I felt quite pressured by these dreams and didn't know how to explain them. I couldn't control my dreams, they weren't something I could force. Everything was completely natural. If I could control them, the story would have been different. That's why my father asked me every day, putting a lot of pressure on me. Because of this, many times I would just carelessly give him a number, saying whatever came to mind if I couldn't remember. Of course, they wouldn't win that way. After a few such instances, my father no longer trusted my abilities, and the frequency of my parents' arguments increased. My father seemed to have more gray hair, and it had been a long time since I heard him praise me for being handsome or smart like him. Several years later, because of my involvement in that arithmetic, my family had to move to Yenbai for several years, under the guise of starting a new economy, but in reality, it was to escape debt. Due to that gambling, my father had owed money to other families, and it took him and my mother several years to pay it off. Looking back now that I'm older, I realize this was partly my fault. If I hadn't boasted about my dream-telling ability, things wouldn't have come to such a pass. But at that time, I was just a child, and what did children know? My life was intertwined with strange dreams. It's odd, even when I'm older. I often dreamed of dead people, and whenever I dreamed someone died within a few days, that person would actually pass away. People still thought I was crazy or mentally ill. Some even considered me a bad omen and avoided me like the plague. I don't know how to explain it correctly. I don't know if I truly have some special destiny or not. But whenever I saw someone with a dark streak on their glabella or dark shadows behind them, sure enough, something bad would happen. Several times I told them about it, and they would curse me, some even chasing me away. They even went to my parents' house to complain, and I would get another beating. So I just ignored it. My life continued normally until I was about 10 years old when something strange happened that I will never forget. Our house was near the village well. In the past, this well was the common water source for the whole village. But one time, the water ran dry, and the villagers decided to drain it to catch fish. However, strangely, when they were looking for fish, they found many human bones. Some said they were the bones of people killed during the war, revolutionaries thrown down there. In general, it was a mix of rumors. Now, many people say that at night, when they draw water from the well, they see ghosts and devils on the other side of the well opening, laughing eerily. Many people were even dragged down into the well. Later, the well was abandoned, partly out of fear, partly because many families with means dug their own wells for personal use. My father, Mr. Tu, and our neighbor, Mr. Hung, were two brave men who didn't believe in ghosts or spirits, so they decided to convert the old well into a small pond. Partly because this well bordered the gardens of both their houses, and they could use it to raise fish. At the end of the year, they would drain it and share the catch, using the pond water as a replacement for the well. So, from then on, the village well was transformed into a family pond. The former well was very deep and bowl-shaped, with an underground spring that made the water clear and clean. Many families in the neighborhood often carried water home and treated it with alum for daily use because back then, there were no drilled wells or tap water like now. To have water for use, one had to dig a well. And digging a well was not simple. It cost a lot of money, no joke. Our neighbor, Mr. Hung, had 3 children, 2 daughters and 1 son. Heen and Hoa were older, and Hao was nearly 10 years old. Mr. Hung and his wife, Ms. Mai, had struggled for a long time to have Hao. He was my age, and since we lived close by and shared the same water source, we were very close, always together like inseparable companions. Interestingly, his 2 older sisters were quite pretty, and at an age when many young men in the village would come to court them. Whenever I came to play with the older boys, they would bring gifts like sticky rice cakes, roasted corn, or boiled sweet potatoes for Hao and me, so I enjoyed that very much. I remember clearly that day. It was summer, the season for harvesting peanuts, so everyone went to the fields early. All the adults in the neighborhood were working. I was about to ask Hao to go play. In my hand was a can full of marbles. These weren't the glass cat's eye marbles of today, but marbles made from soft bricks, painted beautiful shades of blue, red, purple, and yellow. In our neighborhood, Hao and I were excellent at shooting marbles. We would always compete, not just play for fun, and we even earned money from these games, not a lot, but enough for us to buy snacks, sometimes ice cream, sometimes toffee. The day before, Hao and I had lost to the other kids in the neighborhood, so today we were going to play again for revenge. In the yard, Mr. Hung's black dog was barking frantically, constantly standing by the pond's edge, growling and howling. This dog was a very smart local breed, completely black, so Mr. Hung's family called him Ink. Normally, he was very gentle, but today he was barking like crazy, which was strange. I was about to turn back when I suddenly saw Hao standing in the yard, looking into the house, his whole body trembling. What surprised me was that the dog kept standing there, barking furiously. Hao was clearly its owner. Also, at that moment, the sun was already high above the bamboo tops, but Hao said nothing. His nose was ashen, and he trembled uncontrollably, even though it was summer and the sun was blazing. This confused me. "What's wrong with you? Why are you shivering like that? Did you swim? My dad said you're forbidden to swim in the pond, so why are you swimming?" Hao didn't answer. The dog continued to growl and bark. I immediately shouted, "Are you crazy? Leave Hao alone, Ink." I bent down to pick up my sandal and threaten it, but Ink immediately ran into the kitchen. Just then, I noticed something utterly illogical. Hao had no shadow. My own shadow was clearly visible in the yard, but Hao had none. However, I didn't pay much attention, partly because I wanted to ask him to play. Hey, are you coming to play with me? The kids in the neighborhood said they're going to get revenge on us today. Are you scared? If you don't go play with them, they'll look down on both of us. But Hao was like a deaf person. I asked him several times, but he didn't answer. Suddenly, he looked at me with a strange gaze. This look was hard to describe. At that moment, I still didn't realize that Hao had died. This was just his soul. In some strange way, I could both see and communicate with him. What's wrong with you? Go change your clothes. Hurry up, let's play for a bit then come back. Hao replied, my father killed me. As I stepped forward to pull him into the house, Hao quickly backed away, not letting me touch him. He then ran into the house and into his room, leaving me extremely confused. Normally, he was more stubborn and eager to play than I was, no joke. Although I was an only child, I was still afraid of my stern father. But Hao, with 2 older sisters and a well-off family, was very spoiled. Any other day, if I asked him to play, he would agree without hesitation. Today was truly strange, but with the mind of a mere 10-year-old boy, how could I think too much about it? A moment later, I didn't see Hao come out. I looked into the house and called him 10 times, but he didn't answer, which made me very confused. I didn't know what was wrong with him. I stared at the tightly closed door, not daring to open it. I hugged my marble can, feeling annoyed, and didn't forget to curse him. Damn it, you crazy kid. What are you doing? If you don't want to play with me anymore, just say so. What are you talking about? Come out here. Then I stepped down the porch, but as I stood there, I heard a crying voice from inside the room. It was definitely Hao's voice. Dung, I'm dead, I miss you. At that moment I froze, my head numb, staring blankly, wondering what nonsense he was spouting. I had just seen him, and now he said he was dead. What was going on? What did you say, Hao? Get out here, you damn ghost. As I spoke, I slowly advanced into the room. This was Mr. Hung's bedroom, but I couldn't open the door. What's inside? Open the door, let me see. Do you miss me? Do you abandon me? We're best friends, aren't we? You miss me. You miss who? Do you want to meet me often? Damn it, if you don't want to meet me, I'll still meet you. I don't know why I answered Hao like a machine, completely unaware that from the moment I saw him, he had already become a vengeful spirit. Remember, whenever I call you, you have to come meet me, okay? Okay, come here. At that moment, I answered casually, not knowing that Hao was truly dead. I was talking to his ghost. I don't know how to explain it. I'm down there, I'm so cold, Dung. Why didn't you come sooner to save me? I'm dead, I miss you. Come with me so I won't feel so lonely. This time, Hao's crying was more haunting, more bizarre. At that point, I started to feel scared, slowly backing away, my whole body trembling, sweating. I wanted to run away quickly, but my limbs felt soft and weak. What's wrong with you? You said you wouldn't leave me, so why are you so scared? Come on. Suddenly, I clearly heard a creaking sound in my ear. The room door, which had been tightly closed, now slowly opened. My heart pounded as I looked inside, but it was pitch black. Suddenly, a figure walked out. It was Hao, but his face had become malicious and indescribably eerie. Most notably, his eyes were wide open, full of whites. You promised you'll come with me, won't you? We're best friends. At that moment, I felt dizzy, but my body wouldn't obey. My legs buckled, and a warm, hot stream ran down my pants. Suddenly, Hao, with his extremely malicious expression, lunged at me. A chilling sensation spread from my head to my toes, and I fell backward. My whole body was seized by an unbearable coldness. A necklace on my chest suddenly glowed brightly. This necklace was a protective amulet that my mother, Ms. Lian, had consecrated at the shrine of Duc Than Tran several years ago. I don't know if it was what saved me then. I only heard Hao's scream, full of pain, but when I turned my head, there was nothing at all. Outside, the sun was still shining brightly on the loofah vines, and the dog, Ink, was still standing in the yard, barking loudly into the house. Immediately, I regained consciousness, remembered everything, and quickly ran back into the house. Although we were neighbors and shared a pond, in the countryside, there was still a sense of close houses, far paths. My house and Hao's house were adjacent, but we had to walk around the entire pond to get to each other's house. I didn't dare to go out to the yard. I glanced towards the pond bridge at Hao's house. On the wooden post nailed in front of me, I saw a very large crow perched there, staring at me, making me tremble with fear. When I ran home, I didn't know what to do, then I heard people talking from the alleyway. It turned out my mother, Ms. Lian, was returning from harvesting peanuts. My face was as pale as a ghost's bottom, and I looked like I was crying. She looked down at my wet pants, and my mother was about to ask, "What's wrong with you?" "Mom!" At that moment, I burst into sobs, recounting the entire story of Hao's ghost to my mother. Initially, she didn't believe me, but my panic state frightened her greatly. My mother, Ms. Lian, then asked, "Are you telling the truth or joking?" "I'm telling the truth. Hao told me he's in the pond, and I clearly talked to him. He even asked me to go with him. I'm so scared." Hearing this, my mother knew something bad had happened and immediately ran out, shouting frantically, attracting everyone's attention. My mother also panicked and said, "Hao from Mr. Hung's house drowned in the pond today. Someone go get him, please." At that moment, I was also terrified, choked up. It was truly hard to describe that feeling. I kept glancing at the pond bridge. The image of Hao from earlier, incredibly terrifying, kept flashing in my mind. At that moment, I was so scared I couldn't even make a sound. It was truly hard to describe that feeling. As I kept glancing at the pond bridge, the image of Hao from earlier, incredibly terrifying, kept flashing in my mind. Someone ran to inform Mr. Hung and his wife. But just as they reached the alley, they saw the whole family returning with a cart full of peanuts. Mr. Hung, seeing everyone gathered in front of his house and hearing cries of "How," turned pale. He abandoned the cart and ran frantically home, shouting, "What's wrong? Why are so many people gathered at my house? What happened to my son, How?" Ms. Mai, Mr. Hung's wife, and their two daughters, Heen and Hoa, panicked and rushed into the house, crying and calling out, "My child, How has drowned in the pond." Immediately, Mr. Hung jumped into the pond to search, and many others followed suit. But strangely, they searched the entire pond for an hour but found nothing at all. After a long time, a few people spoke to Mr. Hung. "Maybe he didn't drown. If he did, we would have seen him, or maybe he went somewhere. Did he go to the fields with his grandparents today?" Ms. Mai was whimpering now. "This morning, our whole family went to the fields to harvest peanuts early. Hao was still asleep when we left, wasn't he? Hao, why did you abandon your parents and leave like this?" Mr. Hung, still in the pond, was now visibly distraught. "Silence, woman, you must see the living, see the dead." Then he told his two daughters, Heen and Hoa, "Go to your grandparents' house and ask if he's there. If he comes back, I'll beat him to death. I've warned him so many times, but he still goes out to play and gets himself into trouble. What a disobedient child." But even as he spoke, his voice was filled with fear. Everyone could feel the tremor in his words, as if he was about to cry. Immediately, the two daughters, Heen and Hoa, ran off whimpering. The atmosphere was suddenly as tense as a drawn bowstring. Then the murmuring began again. Could he have gone to play somewhere? That Hao from Mr. Hung's house and Dung from Ms. Lian's house, they're as mischievous as devils, aren't they? They have endless tricks up their sleeves. That's right. Many times I saw them messing around on the road at 1 or 2 in the morning. They wouldn't sleep. There was even a time when both of them spied on Ms. Thin bathing. The person who just spoke was Ms. Lone, a rather rude woman in the village who had an early reputation for promiscuity. Ms. Lone was once considered the beauty queen of the village, so many men sought her attention. However, after her husband died, she changed her personality, becoming loose and having affairs with countless men. This was true because I and Hao had many times seen her bring different men into her house and close the door. At that time, Ms. Lone's children were all sent outside. Ms. Lone's children were also about my age. Every time, we would peek from outside to see what Ms. Lone was doing with these men. Ms. Lone and the man would be naked, hugging each other, and doing something. Some men would only stay for a few minutes, some longer. I still remember one tall, seemingly aggressive man. Every time he entered Ms. Lone's room, he would stay for an hour. Inside Ms. Lone's room, her face would be flushed red, her hair disheveled, and she would constantly be spanked by the man. Ms. Lone would cry for help, but the more she cried, the harder the man would hit her. I don't know if she was in too much pain, but we heard her cry out, "Oh, darling, I'm dying." I saw this many times, so I told Ms. Lone's daughters, "From tomorrow, don't let that man come to your house anymore. Every time he comes, he hurts your mother so much, and she groans and whimpers." I don't know if Ms. Lone's children went back and told their mother, but from then on, Ms. Lone openly hated me and Hao. In the mind of a child at that time, I felt immensely sorry for Ms. Lone. I couldn't understand why she endured such treatment. She was beaten so hard by that man, crying out in pain, yet she still endured it. That's why every time we saw a man enter Ms. Lone's house, Hao and I would throw bricks at the door, preventing him from hitting Ms. Lone. I also swear that I never once saw Ms. Lone's children bathing alone. There were a few times, but it was purely accidental. Hao was the one who first led me to do it. This is truly a grave injustice. Normally, if I heard these words, I would definitely argue fiercely. But at that moment, I no longer had the heart to speak. I felt very wronged, but I didn't dare to say anything, just secretly glanced at the pond. My heart was restless. That's right, there's no one in the pond. Ms. Leon said so. Maybe Dung, Mr. Two's son, is lying? That kid is always messing around. He probably fooled the whole village. After Ms. Lone spoke, many others chimed in, their eyes all fixed on me. It was then that I realized many people disliked me. I didn't understand why. What wrong had I done? At that moment, Mr. Hung's face was filled with worry, still in the pond, while a few others had already come ashore. In the distance, I heard faint cursing. A moment later, Mr. Hung turned to my mother and asked, Ms. Leon, who told you that How drowned in the pond, did you see it? My mother, Ms. Leon, turned pale, looking at me, not knowing what to say. It wasn't because she hadn't witnessed it herself. She turned to me and said, Dung, my son, when I was returning from the fields, I saw him crying and whimpering that your son, How, had drowned. I panicked, that's why I shouted so loudly. But truly, I didn't see it directly. At this moment, all eyes turned to me, questioning me intensely, believing I was lying. I myself was very scared because I was still so young. Just then, my father, Mr. Two, grabbed my hand. His grip was tight, making me feel a slight pain. He asked, Tell your father the truth. How do you know How is in the pond? This is serious, not a joke, okay? You have to tell the truth. Where is How? If you lie, I'll beat you to death. I whimpered and recounted everything from beginning to end, including meeting him that morning. Some eyes were suspicious, believing I was making things up. I didn't know how to explain it correctly. I didn't understand why I wanted How to be truly dead. I was truly a child. Just then, from outside, the voices of How's two older sisters, Heen and Hoa, announced the news. We went to ask around at our grandparents' house and several other houses, but no one saw How anywhere. We don't know where he went. Our grandparents are also here now. Everyone is splitting up to look for him, Dad. Hearing this, everyone was surprised because this was extremely strange. A living person had suddenly disappeared from the village, something that had never happened before. Many rumors circulated, the situation was very tense, and some relatives even suggested, could How have been kidnapped? I hear people are kidnapping children cruelly these days. Could that be what happened? Nonsense. Who would kidnap him? Kidnap anyone else, but kidnap How? They wouldn't even have enough rice to feed him. Then where could he have gone? It's only been a few hours. This is truly strange, isn't it? Just then, as the situation seemed most tense, How's maternal grandparents heard the news and arrived. Behind them was a man dressed as a shaman, wearing a butterfly-winged hat, carrying a bag full of tools. It was Master Han. In my village at that time, shamans, spiritual mediums, and feng shui masters were generally referred to as Master Han. This Master Han was very skilled and famous because he had a shrine at his house, and I heard he even kept yin soldiers and had very high-level spiritual powers. In the surrounding villages, whenever a family had spiritual matters, they would seek Master Han's help. I invited Master Han here, everyone, please step back and listen. How's maternal grandfather, who is over 70 years old and a respected figure in the village, spoke up after being informed about How's disappearance. Master Han, a man in his 50s with a dignified but somewhat stooped posture, spoke in a voice that was neither fully male nor female. He stood on the bank, observing for a while, then sighed softly. No need to search. I bet the boy's body is in the pond. But it's hidden by a ghost. You can search until tomorrow, but you won't find it. This pond has a ghost. It used to be the old well. Hearing this, everyone turned pale, though many didn't believe him and immediately protested. What are you saying, Master? My uncle and I searched this pond for an hour. We looked in every nook and cranny. We didn't find anything. Whether you see it or not is not for you to decide. I said there's a dead person in the pond. Master Han glared at the person who argued and said coldly, Master, you're so skilled, so what do we do now? This matter can be easy or difficult. But with me here, rest assured, we'll find everything. Master, don't boast. Anyone can say that. The person continued to argue stubbornly, perhaps holding some prejudice against Master Han. Others, hearing this, found it irritating and said, Shut up. If you can't do anything, let others do it. Master Han says things because he can do them, not just random nonsense. This person still didn't believe, insisting again, masters these days, still believing in this absurd ghost stuff. Go find it then. If you don't, you'll look foolish. However, Master Han didn't bother to respond. He walked around the pond bridge, took out a compass from his pocket. Inside was a needle pointing directions. He stared intently at it for a moment, then turned towards Mr. Hung's house and said, "Go into the house and bring out a shirt the boy often wears. I have a way to make him surface." Immediately, house sister Heen went into the house and brought out a short-sleeved sports shirt with the number 9 and the name Ronaldo printed on it. But what felt most strange was that Hao had been wearing that very shirt when I saw him earlier. At that moment, I didn't know why, but I truly wished that what I had witnessed earlier was not real, just a dream. Even if my father beat me or the whole village cursed me, I would accept it. Because, after all, Hao was my best friend and no one wanted him to die. Furthermore, his behavior at that time frightened me. He was already dead, but his ghost was still luring me, as if he wanted me to go with him. When Heen brought out Hao's shirt, Master Han tied the shirt to the end of a stick and stuck an incense stick into it. After that, Master Han looked at everyone and asked, "Who was the first person to see the boy dead? Come here, I need your help with this." All eyes turned to my mother, Ms. Lian, who stepped forward, but Master Han shook his head and said, "Not you. Your spiritual energy is too heavy." Then he turned to me, saw my pale face, trembling, gripping my mother's hand tightly. Master Han frowned and said, "Oh, this boy. I see you have a strong affinity with that boy. You should be careful. You're light-spirited and easily lured. Did you see him earlier? You have evil energy on you. Be warned." Master Han's words made me feel dizzy, and it wasn't just me. My mother also trembled slightly. I didn't understand how, by some magical means, Master Han knew this exact detail. He had just arrived. He approached me, gently patted my head and said, "I see you have a spirit following you, but don't be afraid. Now I need you to hold this stick and walk 3 times around the pond bank. Shout loudly, 'Hao, where are your 3 souls and 7 spirits? Come up here quickly.' You must shout this 3 times. I will be here, following behind you. Nothing will happen, don't worry." My father, Mr. Tu, frowned, about to say something, but my mother, Ms. Lian, approached Master Han and asked, "Are you serious about this, Master?" "My son is." Master Han reassured her. "Don't worry, I've told you before, haven't I? Several years ago, your son also had some kind of possession. This is nothing. It's just that your son has a destiny. However, it wasn't clear whose spiritual affinity it was before. If your family is truly devoted, bring him to me. I can perform the ritual for him." My father, Mr. Tu, still didn't believe in these stories. In his mind, he was always afraid of being deceived. Also, as he worked for the commune committee, he didn't like fortune tellers. He still considered them fraudsters, so he stepped forward and said, "Master, let's leave this for later." "What ritual? My nephew doesn't have money for rituals. You said you have a way to make Hao, Mr. Hung's son, surface. Do it. If you can do it, then I'll believe you." Master Han narrowed his eyes and said, "Mr. Tu, there are things in this world that just because you don't see them doesn't mean no one sees them. You may not know, but others do. And there are many such things in this world. I know you work for the commune committee, but whatever you do, you should still have a little faith. Otherwise, if things happen and you regret it later, it will be too late." Then Master Han, ignoring my father, pulled me by the hand to the pond bridge and handed me the stick with Hao's shirt hanging from it. Following Master Han's words, several people who had been in the pond also came ashore. The water, which was usually clear and clean, was now bubbling and murky. Many people watched this strange soul-calling ritual, which could be said to be unprecedented. I, being directly involved, didn't know how to explain it. To me, I was still too young, but the memory of this event remains unforgettable to this day. I cannot explain it by ordinary logic because it was incredibly mystical. One could say that Master Han was truly an extremely skilled person. The pond, about a sow in size, was originally the village well that my father, Mr. Tu, and Mr. Hung had converted into a shared pond. Around it were thick bamboo groves and trees. On the other side of the bank, there was an underground spring connected to a small river. My house and Mr. Hung's house would periodically drain the pond, but had never been able to drain it completely. They would use a pump to drain the water until it was almost empty, then use nets and traps. Because it wasn't a stagnant pond, the water here was very clean, and the fish grew quickly. On the other side of the bank, there was an ancient fig tree that leaned completely into the pond, God knows since when. Children in my neighborhood often came here to pick its fruit to eat. Adults who ate nem tai or nem fung would come here to pick its leaves. On summer afternoons, children often came here to swim. I remember no one had ever drowned here before. But now, I was the one connecting to search for my best friend, who was lying underneath. To say I wasn't scared wouldn't be true. However, with so many adults accompanying me, I tried my best to follow Master Hand's instructions. I walked and shouted loudly, "How, where are your 3 souls and 7 spirits? Come up quickly." When I had almost completed 3 laps around the pond, I still saw nothing. Many people sighed. Master Han is probably just boasting. It's almost 3 laps and we haven't seen anything, and he even claimed it so confidently. What a saint. Someone then said mockingly, "If lumps of dirt could talk, the geomancer wouldn't have any teeth left." Then sounds of scoffing and doubting filled the air, as if no one believed in the master's abilities. However, I don't know about others, but I myself felt very strange at that moment. The shirt on the stick suddenly felt heavy, and my hands and feet trembled. The stick I was holding, with Hao's shirt on it, was just a tiny branch from a jujube tree. I didn't understand why it felt so heavy, as if something was pulling my whole body down into the pond. I startled and looked at Master Han, who was standing behind me, and he whispered, "Don't be afraid. Hold it tight, he's about to come up." Hearing that, I got goosebumps all over. Then Master Han joined his hands in a mudra, mumbling something I couldn't hear clearly. With one hand, he held an incense stick and waved it continuously. The incense Master Han held was a large, thick stick, like a finger, wrapped with colorful threads of green, red, purple, and yellow, looking very strange. The master's other hand held an abacus, calculating something. Then he waved the stick through the air, and the tension quickly escalated. Suddenly, the incense stick he held burst into a complete flame. Normally, incense smoke would drift lazily, but now it seemed to be sucked in by something, forming a long stream of smoke that entered the shirt in the pond. It felt like a fishing line connecting the end of the stick to the shirt. Hao's shirt was now like bait. "How dare you play such tricks when I am here?" Witnessing this scene, many people gasped in terror. Even those who didn't believe dared not voice their opinions, all staring at the shirt in the pond as if pushed by an unseen force. The shirt slowly moved towards the ancient fig tree at the bottom of the pond. Everyone followed. At this point, the shirt began to sink. Immediately, Master Han announced, "Here it is, he's here." Master Han then threw the burning incense stick into the water. I don't know how, but a series of bubbles erupted fiercely, as if someone had thrown something heavy into the water. Then, suddenly, a clump of hair surfaced. At this moment, several people immediately jumped into the pond and pulled it up. It was indeed Hao's body. No one understood how or why this happened, because from our side of the bank, it was dozens of meters away from his house's pond bridge. If Hao had fallen at the pond bridge on the other side, he would only have drifted and sunk in that area. There was no logical reason for his body to drift all the way to this side. Thinking this, several people jumped in to search further, following Master Han's instructions. Indeed, it was true. Hao's body was brought ashore. By the time Hao's body was recovered, his entire body was stiff and white, God knows since when. Mr. Hung's wife, Ms. Mai, kept fainting. Mr. Hung seemed to go mad. He hugged Hao's body and ran around frantically. The wails and screams of family members echoed, and the advice and comfort from everyone made it impossible for anyone to hold back tears. "Stop, the boy's body is stiff. What can be done now? Blood is flowing from his mouth and nose like that. So tragic. If only someone at home had found him earlier, wouldn't it have been better? Who found him? The family has a shared pond, but there's no proper fence." "What fence? He's 10 years old, he knows how to swim, doesn't he?" Mr. Hung now seemed to go insane. He put Hao's body down and cursed. "Hao, open your eyes, Dad, hurry up. Damn it, open your eyes." "What did Dad tell you, huh? What were you doing at the pond early in the morning? My child, why is my fate so miserable?" No one could hold back their tears. I also cried, not knowing if it was out of fear or pity for Hao. Blood flowed from his mouth, nose, and ears, turning black. I didn't know what this meant. Later, I learned that drowned people often bleed like that when they see their family members. I don't know if it's spiritual or what, but it's very scary. I didn't dare to go near Hao's body. His body was laid on a mat, and Mr. Hung's family began to plan his funeral. Some ran to buy a coffin, others called for a tent, some were assigned to prepare food. Everything was chaotic and hurried. More and more people from the village came to watch, with whispers and criticisms, along with cries of sorrow for a life lost. I didn't know how to deal with it. At that moment, I was the one involved. They thought I was the one who found Hao. Why didn't I shout or report it to everyone, letting him drown like that? I tried to explain and cry, but some malicious people didn't believe me. especially Mr. Hung's family members, who looked at me with reproach. What strange things are you saying? He's dead, so how could you talk to him? Or did you see him die but didn't help? When did you see him die? Tell us clearly. Or did you and he come here to play and you're a ghost, not a human? This man was Mr. Hong, Hao's paternal uncle, and a prominent figure in the village. He had a prejudice against my family before because once I had a dream where his wife, Ms. Thin, was gored to death by a buffalo, her intestines spilling out. I even told Ms. Thin about it, which caused her to chase me all the way home. Ms. Thin even scolded my parents, saying they were worthless and didn't know how to raise their child. This led to a huge argument between our families. But to my surprise, a few days later, Ms. Thin was indeed gored to death by a buffalo. Now, Mr. Hong came to my house, calling me a monster, a ghost. All his harsh words were directed at me, even though I knew nothing. I merely recounted my dream as it was. Perhaps for this reason, Mr. Hong hated my family deeply. Mr. Hung's family, our neighbors, were also affected. Though Mr. Hung and Mr. Hong were brothers, they rarely visited each other. So at this moment, Mr. Hong looked at me with wide, staring eyes, full of rage, as if he wanted to devour me alive. My father, Mr. Tu, saw Mr. Hong but remained silent, listening to the story before gently saying, "My son Dung didn't do anything. Why are you talking like that, uncle? He's just a 10-year-old kid. What would he know about saving someone? What you're saying is just blaming a child. Children don't know how to lie. You're old, don't speak so carelessly. Are you defending him? If you don't raise your child properly, he'll grow up to be disrespectful." Mr. Hong still turned towards my family, speaking bitterly. I didn't know how to explain, so I just whimpered and said, "I don't know when Hao fell. This morning, my parents went to the fields to harvest peanuts, and I was home alone, so I went to ask Hao to play. But I met him and talked to him." "What time did you meet him?" "I went at a little after 9 a.m. "Nonsense. He's as stiff as this, and you're saying it was just a few hours ago? After 9 a.m.? How dare you lie?" Old man Hong spoke loudly to everyone, pointing at his wristwatch. "Look, everyone, his nephew is dead like this, and Mr. Tu's son says he met the boy and talked to him at 9 a.m. This kid is slippery." "I don't know anything, I just said what I knew." Mr. Hong's eyes widened, glowing red like an enraged animal, staring at me and shouting. I was so scared that I shrank back, leaning against my father, not daring to look. My father, Mr. Tu, was a respected person in the village and a commune police officer. At this moment, he stood up, pointed at Mr. Hong's face, and said, "Uncle, you're truly funny. What would a child know? Clearly, my wife and I left home for the fields at 8 a.m. this morning. My son was still asleep when we left, and Hao has been like this for 4 or 5 hours, not less. What does it have to do with my son that you're talking as if my son killed him, huh? What's wrong with you? What do you want now? Just say it. Do you like bullying children? Don't think that because I'm Mr. Tu, you can bully me. Don't think that because you work for the commune committee you can say whatever you want, huh?" Mr. Hong, at that moment, rushed back to Mr. Hung and scolded. Hung, what did I tell you about the shared pond? It's full of useless fish. Now do you see the harm in it? You've lost both a person and property. My nephew. Why did you jump into the well? I don't know what you were thinking, chasing after a few fish." Mr. Hung was now sobbing, unable to say another word, just beating his chest in extreme pain. No one knew who to blame now. Hao's 2 older sisters, Heen and Hoa, cried hysterically. At this moment, I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I sat down, whimpering and trembling, not daring to get close to Hao's body. I secretly looked at his body. It had started to turn a pale color, his limbs stiff, but the most terrifying thing was his eyes, which kept opening and closing, and blood mixed with pus oozed from his mouth, incredibly horrifying. Hao's death left me deeply haunted. It followed me throughout my childhood, and even now, I sometimes still clearly recall his face. No one understood why Hao died in the pond like that. I also found it strange because, just as Mr. Hong said, Hao had actually died a long time ago. So how was it that I talked to him this morning? Perhaps. At this moment, Master Han spoke to Mr. Hung's family. Master Han's words at that moment carried immense weight. After the events of earlier, no one dared to disrespect him. They even looked at him with awe and apprehension. "Enough, things have come to this, so stop arguing. It won't solve anything. Your son's fate has run its course. It's time for him to go. As for Mr. Tu's son, Dung, he's light-spirited and occasionally encounters things he shouldn't. That's normal. It has nothing to do with him, so why are you blaming him? He's just a child." Then Master Han turned to my mother and instructed, "You two, take him home. Remember to bathe him with grapefruit leaf water and burn some locust bean pods at the gate. The yin energy is cold. After I finish here, I'll come talk to you." Master Han then glanced at me, a deep look as if assessing something. Finally, Hao's funeral was held that same afternoon. Master Han also performed the rituals for him. In my village at that time, normally, people who died on the road, in the market, in rivers, or streams were not brought home, but Hao died in an accident near home, so they still held a normal funeral. That whole night, I lay huddled in my room, clearly hearing every sound of the drums and gongs from Mr. Hung's house. Every time I heard the mournful sounds, I pulled the blanket tighter. Because the image of Hao lying on the mat in the yard appeared clearly in my mind, I dared not close my eyes, as every few minutes I would startle awake. It felt like someone was sitting at the head of my bed, just waiting for me to close my eyes to lean over and call my name. Although it was summer and usually hot, that night it was strangely cold. Every time the wind whistled through the window cracks, my skin got goosebumps. I lay there, remembering Hao's pale face when I saw him in the house that morning. He stood there, his nose ashen and purple, but what scared me most was not his appearance. It was when he ran from his room, lunged at me, and asked me to go with him. Remembering this, a cold shiver ran down my spine. I pulled the blanket over my head, hoping the sound of the funeral gongs would fade. But the more I covered myself, the clearer the gongs from Mr. Hung's house became. Ms. Mai's sobbing, Mr. Hung's cries, rising and falling in waves. My child, why did you abandon your parents and leave, Hao? What am I to do?" All the while, my tears flowed unconsciously. Around midnight, exhausted, I fell asleep. As I slept, I suddenly heard the faint sound of water splashing behind our house. At first, I thought it was fish, but listening closely, it wasn't. It sounded like someone was splashing water in the pond. I was so scared I almost wet my pants. I pressed myself against my mother, but strangely, my mother's body was also cold. My father was probably still at the funeral and hadn't returned, or I don't know if he was at the funeral because he worked for the commune committee and often had night shifts. It was just my mother and me at home. Not long after, I clearly heard a whispering voice. "Dung, I'm so cold. You promised to come with me, so why did you abandon me? I miss you so much. Wake up and come play with me." The voice came from beside the window. I was sure it was Hao's voice. I suddenly trembled. The strange thing was that my mother was completely unaware. She was still sleeping soundly, her breathing even. Although I pulled the blanket tightly and held my breath, the scratching sound at the window became more vivid. I tried to call my mother, but it felt like something was tightly grasping my mouth, unable to utter a single word, just muffled sounds. It was only when my mother shook me awake that I realized I had wet my pants. My mother looked at me with a stern face and said, "You're a big boy now. Go change your clothes and come out. We'll go to Mr. Hung's house later to light an incense stick for Hao and see his face one last time. Your mother was there helping the family all night." At this moment, I slowly came to my senses. Looking outside, the sky was not yet bright, and fog from the pond formed a thin veil. However, I heard footsteps and people talking on the road. I suddenly froze, looking at my mother. "What did you say? You were at Ms. Mai's house all night? Then where was Dad? Your house and Mr. Hung's house are close neighbors. Get up, brush your teeth, wash your face, and change your clothes. You're a big boy, still wetting the bed." "Oh, so last night the person I slept with wasn't Mom?" "No, your father. You said you wanted to sleep alone, that you were grown up and needed your privacy. Your mother didn't come home, you slept alone." Hearing my mother's words, I felt truly dizzy. So the person I had hugged all night wasn't my mother. If not my mother, then who? Before I could inquire further, my father's voice called from outside. "You too, come to Mr. Hung's house for breakfast." "Dung, go light an incense stick for Hao, see his face one last time." Hearing this, my blood ran cold. The day before, seeing him in the house, I almost fainted. Now I was told to go see him again. I truly didn't want to at all, but I was afraid. Since my parents said so, how could I refuse? Mr. Hung's house was very big, so there were many people. Relatives gathered, some crying loudly, others quietly sobbing, others resting. As I approached the gate, my feet wanted to turn back. But my father, Mr. Tu, looked at me and softly whispered, "He was your best friend. Go light an incense stick for him to show your respect. Go on, son, your father will lead you, don't be afraid." But even at the word respect, my heart pounded. It's true that no matter how scared I was, I still felt pity for him. Suddenly, my eyes became red-rimmed with tears. Inside the house, I saw the coffin placed in the living room. Beside it was the altar with Hao's picture. I burst into tears. I don't know why, perhaps out of fear, out of pity for Hao, or perhaps both. Ms. Mai and her two daughters, Heen and Hoa, hugged the coffin, sobbing and lamenting. Mr. Hung stood by the altar, responding to guests. To those who came to pay their respects, Mr. Hung handed them an incense stick to light for Hao, but his hand trembled so much that he couldn't stick it in properly. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but I suddenly felt that Mr. Hung was acting strangely, not naturally. Even when he handed me the incense stick, his hand trembled, dropping it to the ground. His lips were also pale, as if he was afraid of something. Perhaps no one noticed this, because they assumed it was normal behavior for a father who had just lost his child. After offering condolences to the family, my father and I went outside to the table for water. Many people looked at me, whispering and discussing. I was truly worried at that moment and didn't know how to express my feelings. Then my father told me, "Son, go get some rice from your mother and go home to rest. It's cold here." When my father said that, I immediately went home, not daring to stay any longer, even though some adults called me back to eat. One woman even pulled my hand. However, at this moment, I had no mind for eating or drinking. I kept thinking about the scene of Hao's ghost yesterday morning, and about how I had slept all night hugging another woman who I thought was my mother. I truly couldn't fathom it. As I ran back, I glanced at the pond bridge near Mr. Hung's house and suddenly froze. I didn't know when, but an unfamiliar woman, holding a child of about 4 or 5 years old, had been standing there for a long time. I had seen her when I went earlier, but hadn't paid much attention, thinking she was a neighbor or relative helping out. Yet she stood there in a strange, silent posture at the bamboo bridge, while fog from the pond was still rising, creating a blurry, indescribable sight. I didn't understand why everyone else was eating, and she was here with her child. And she didn't seem afraid, even though someone had just died in this pond. "Brother, come play with me. Brother, Hao isn't here, come down here." The child in the woman's arms suddenly looked at me and smiled, his lips moving, but I heard him clearly as if hypnotized. At that moment, I made no resistance at all. I followed his words like a machine, not knowing what I was doing. But at that instant, someone on the bank shouted, "Hey you, do you want to die? Good heavens, whose child is that going down into the pond like that? Someone save him." I had walked out waist deep, but I kept going into the middle of the pond until the water reached my neck. Then, suddenly, I heard my father's loud shout. He also jumped into the pond, grabbed my hair and pulled me ashore, then slapped me hard several times. "Dung, I told you to go home. Why are you going down into the pond? Do you want to die?" Many people ran out, all looking at me with surprise. My mother immediately pulled my father away and said, "What are you doing? The child doesn't know anything. Why are you hitting him?" At this moment, I truly woke up, my body soaked and shivering, still terrified. I looked around, but the woman and child were nowhere to be seen. A gust of cold wind blew, making me shiver. I burst into tears. "I don't know anything. I just saw a woman holding a child about 4 or 5 years old calling me down. I was so scared." Hearing this, several people who were there looked at each other with concern. Mr. Hung, Hao's father, now ran out. When I said that, he panicked. His eyes were red and he stammered a few incoherent words. Then he fainted. Several people rushed to give him first aid. After a while, he recovered, but from then on, he looked extremely distraught. However, someone in the family seemed to have discerned something unusual, so they said, "Master Han, let's invite Master Han back. Who knows how to ride a motorbike to the market? Go quickly, no need to look for him, he's already here." At this moment, a voice came from the alley. It was Master Han. Seeing Master Han, my mother immediately pleaded, "Master, please look at my son. He, I told you yesterday. This pond has a lot of resentment, but every grievance has a cause, every debt has a master. The one who tied the knot must untie it. Only Mr. Hung's family can solve this. I said yesterday that this pond has heavy resentment, but this resentment is not from Hao's death. It's from nearly 20 years ago." The whole family fell silent. Mr. Hung staggered back a step, his eyes bloodshot, his breathing ragged, falling to his knees in extreme anguish. Ms. Mai's face and lips were also ashen, her hands tightly clasped, trembling. After a moment, she cried out, turning to Master Han, clasping her hands as if praying. "Master, please, can we just let this pass? Whether it can pass or not depends on the living. Every grievance has a cause, every debt has a master. Today, the truth must be spoken. The person has come to collect the debt." Master Han's words made me tremble. I didn't know why, but at that moment, I felt extremely scared. Mr. Hung burst into tears, kneeling. Master, please, don't say it in front of my wife and children. I was wrong. Master Han sighed, his eyes filled with profound sadness. Nearly 20 years ago, Mr. Hung loved a pure, innocent girl. This girl was my niece, Ms. Tyatt. The matter was almost settled. But Mr. Hung's family pressured him to marry Ms. Mai because of matching social status. Ms. Tyatt married another man, but ended up with an abusive husband who often beat and tormented her and her child. Ms. Tyatt had to return to her parents' house, but her parents disagreed with their daughter returning because of the stigma. I, as Ms. Tyatt's uncle, carried her child to my house for help whenever she was beaten by her husband, until Ms. Tyatt's son was 4 or 5 years old. Master Han looked intensely at Mr. Hung and continued, "Why did you, Mr. Hung, having a family, still maintain contact with her? You didn't even have land yet, so why did you give her hope? Why did you help her, causing your wife to be jealous?" Ms. Mai now burst into tears. "I'm sorry, at that time I had just given birth, my mind was confused. Many times Ms. Tyatt would stand by the village well, and I would see my husband go there to draw water and talk to her at night. The village rumored that the child resembled Mr. Hung, so..." Mr. Hung sobbed, clutching his head, looking at his wife and blaming her. "There was nothing between Tyatt and me. It's just because you were too jealous. I'm sorry, this is my fault, my fault. When you and Ms. Tyatt argued, she accidentally slipped and fell into the well." Master Han's eyes, red with anger, looked at Mr. Hung and his wife, then sighed. "You two don't need to say anything, you both know. Ms. Tyatt is my own niece. However, you two allowed her to suffer a grudge at the bottom of the well for so many years that it turned into a powerful spirit. Yesterday, when I was looking for Hao's body, I felt immense resentment. Since he was Ms. Tyatt's son, perhaps your child, Hao, has almost died several times to Master Han turned to me. It's a good thing this boy, Dung, was still wearing his protective amulet necklace. Otherwise, last night, Hao and Ms. Tyatt would have dragged Mr. Tu's son, Dung, along with them. Luckily, Ms. Tyatt was lying next to the boy, otherwise he would have been completely chilled to the bone. When I heard that, my parents looked bewildered, not understanding what was happening. But I knew that the person I had hugged all night was not my mother. Master Han looked at everyone inside. Resentment should be resolved, not created. The time has come. I am her uncle. When I learned about this, I also hated your family, Mr. Hung. However, the conscience of a master does not permit such actions. After all, not everything was caused by you. The surface of the pond stirred, becoming eerily cold, even though it was still summer. Master Han walked to the pond bridge, then placed an altar, stuck 3 incense sticks into the ground, mumbling incantations. The incense smoke coiled and swirled in one spot, as if an invisible hand was holding it, then the pond surface rippled and turned a deep crimson. The morning fog from the pond also moved, and from a distance, a shadowy figure appeared, embracing her child. I recognized this person as the woman I saw earlier. Now, all she needs is an honest confession from you two. For many years, you two have silently caused her resentment to grow stronger and stronger. I don't know if anyone else felt it, but at that moment, Mr. Hung suddenly stood up, rushed to the edge of the pond, and whimpered, "Tyatt, I am so sorry. I deserve to carry this burden all my life, but please forgive my son. I apologize, Tyatt. I didn't mean to do what I did back then. I, too, am a mother. I understand your pain. I have also lost my son, Hao. Please release my family." Ms. Mai now knelt down, facing the pond bridge, clasping her hands. Master Han sighed softly. Then he turned to the shadowy figure in the pond and said, "The one who committed the wrong has bowed their head and acknowledged it. I have done what you asked. Now, follow the water and go. Don't linger here anymore." Ms. Tyatt bowed and tightly embraced her child. The child wrapped his arms around his mother's neck, pressed his face into her shoulder, and then both slowly sank into the water as light as smoke. A profound calm settled over the pond. It was warm again, no longer giving me chills. I vaguely looked at Ms. Tyatt's child. He looked at me and smiled faintly, his eyes no longer holding any resentment. Master Han clasped his hands, performed a madra, and shouted loudly. The morning fog suddenly dissipated, and the surface of the pond became still and reflective like a mirror. The sun rose above the bamboo groves, signaling a new day. Hao's funeral was held and buried that same afternoon. After Master Han resolved the grievances for Mr. Hung's family and Ms. Tyatt that year, I never once dreamed of Hao again. Sometimes, I still wonder if Hao hadn't died, would his parents' story have found peace? Master Hand took me to his shrine and performed a soul-selling ritual for me until I was 13 years old. And from then on, my special ability to dream or see ghosts gradually disappeared. But perhaps this is a premonition that I will never forget for the rest of my life.